Today on our 2016 Winnebago Sunova Motorhome, you're going to be taking a look at, I'm going to show you how to install the SuperSprings SumoSprings helper springs. Part number SSR-180-54-1. This is going to increase your ride quality of your vehicle by reducing body roll and sway. So if we don't have these installed, what happens when somebody buys a newer RV, because it's basically a box that you're driving down the road, if you get a large crosswind, maybe you're passing a tractor trailer, maybe you're turning, making a sharp turn. What happens, because the vehicle is top heavy, it tends to lean, sway, and then when it comes back, it tends to go like this. Kind of goes back and forth. That's a body roll and sway. This spring is going to greatly reduce that by absorbing that and not allowing the top of the vehicle to sway so far. When it reduces that amount of sway or the top body roll that it gets, it reduces how much travel back and forth it has. These are going to be constructed of a microcellular urethane, so they're going to be resistant to UV rays, road salts, and oils. Now these are going to work independently. One thing that's great about these springs, unlike some of the others out there, is when they compress and expand, they compress and expand vertically. Some of the other springs will expand out like this. So that makes these where they work well in areas that have limited clearance. And once you get these installed, the great thing about them is they're going to be maintenance free. We're not going to have to do anything. We're not going to have to worry about checking air pressure or anything like that, or maintaining anything. You put them in, you're ready to go. Now that we've gone over some of the features, let me show you how to get them installed. So when you get your spring, you're going to have a lower bracket and an upper bracket. The upper bracket's going to have 2 bolts. They're going to go right into the top of the spring. You can see how the bracket's set up here. These are going to sit against the frame. So if you notice how my lower bracket is sitting, this right here is going to go around the U-bolt on your leaf spring. You're going to have a single bolt that's going to hold this bracket onto the spring itself. When we set this in place, you're going to have 2 bolts that are going to drop down. You're going to have a plate that comes over the bottom, and then 2 nuts and bolts, or 2 nuts that go onto those bolts. This side right here is going to go towards the front of the vehicle. This side is going to go towards the U-bolt on the spring. Before you install this, it's going to be a lot easier if you get your wheels taken off. Now, to take those off, you're going to have a cap like this on the front, or in the center of you, I should say. You're going to have a bunch of caps around the outside. Look for 2 of them that have this notch. Find those actually unscrew off there. Once you get those off, you're going to use an 1 5/16" socket. Probably going to need a breaker bar and a large pole. These are torqued to a couple hundred pounds, so it's probably going to take a couple people to get these loose. Other than that, once you get those loose, as long as your axles or your wheels up off the ground, you should be able to just slide it off, roll it off to the side. Gives you plenty of access to where you're going to be putting on your spring. Once you get that done, you have your spring together. You have these tightened down. This is the U-bolt here that I was talking about. This is going to be the front of my vehicle. This is the back of the vehicle. This U-bolt, this piece right here is going to fit around this inside. So it's going to sit just like this. We want this flat part of this bracket towards the front, and this part towards our U-bolt, just like that. The flat side is going to be mounted on the bottom of our leaf spring. We're going to see 2 square holes. We're going to drop our carriage bolts. We're going to have a long carriage bolt. We're going to run through each side here. We're going to take our bracket, and then we're going to thread on a flange nut. Next, we'll take a 14mm socket and extension. Go ahead and tighten the nuts down. So the next thing we want to do is We want this bottom hole on each side of our bracket to be about centered in between the top and bottom of our frame. This frame is 9 inches, so you can see where my yellow mark is here. It's about 4.5 inches to the bottom of the frame here, to that dot. So what I need to do is now I need to raise my axle to get this hole, the bottom hole here, lined up with that hole, or lined up with that mark. We don't need to be on top of the dot, we just want to be in line with it. And we'll take our 17/64 drill bit, and your instructions is going to say 7/16, but the 7/16 drill bit will not fit in this hole, and it's much larger than your hardware. So 17/64 fits perfectly inside the hole. We're going to drill a hole, bottom hole and top hole on each side. You can see here I've got one of my bolts. They're going to look like this. This is going to be the nut. It's going to be the same as we put on our bottom bracket. I've got one installed here in this bottom hole. I'm going to go ahead and install one in the bottom hole on the other side of our bracket. That way I stay level, and then I can drill my top 2 holes, insert my bolts, and then I'll tighten them into place. Once you're done installing your springs, go ahead and reinstall your wheels. Just make sure you check the torque specs to torque your wheels down to the correct specs. That'll do it for a look at and installation on the SuperSprings SumoSprings Rebel Custom Helper Springs for the front axle, part number SSR-180-54-1 on our 2016 Winnebago Sunova Motorhome.